The stars twinkled in the night sky as Commander John Miller stood on the observation deck of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters. His weathered face showed the marks of his years of military service. At 52, John had seen more battles than most, but nothing had prepared him for what was coming next. "Commander, they're here," a young officer said from behind him. John turned and nodded. After decades of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. Alien ships had entered Earth's solar system 3 days ago. Their message was clear. They came in peace. They called themselves the Galactic Council, a federation of 27 advanced species. "Let's not keep our guests waiting," John said, straightening his uniform. The meeting room was large, with a round table in the center. John entered with Dr. Susan Wright at his side. Susan was Earth's best xenolinguist, a woman who could learn new languages faster than anyone. Her brown hair was tied back and her eyes were bright with excitement. The aliens sat across from them. They looked nothing like humans had imagined. Some had blue skin, others had 4 arms, and the leader, who called himself High Counselor Vexthal, had skin that seemed to shift colors as he moved. "Welcome to Earth," Ambassador Gary Collins said, his voice steady despite his obvious nervousness. Susan worked quickly with her translation device. The aliens responded with clicks and whistles that her computer converted to English. "We have observed your world for some time," High Counselor Vexthal said through the translator. "Your species has advanced quickly, perhaps too quickly." John didn't like the sound of that. His years in the Marines had taught him to spot trouble, and something felt wrong about this meeting. "We come to assess if humans are ready to join Galactic Tao Society," another alien said. This one had 6 eyes that blinked at different times. Ambassador Collins smiled. "We are honored. Humanity has much to offer and much to learn." The talks continued for hours. John stayed quiet, watching. The aliens asked about Earth's military capabilities, population, and resources. Susan noticed the questions seemed focused on Earth's weaknesses rather than strengths. As the meeting ended for the day, John pulled Susan aside. "Something's not right," he whispered. Susan nodded. "They're collecting intelligence, not establishing diplomacy." The next morning, they returned to the meeting room. This time, there were different aliens present. They wore dark armor and carried what looked like weapons. "These are representatives from the Zorthan Imperium," Vexthal explained. "They are concerned about your species." One of the armored aliens stepped forward. "Humans are dangerous. You develop weapons before you develop wisdom. The Zorthan Imperium suggests containment." Ambassador Collins stood up. "We come in peace. Earth has no quarrel with any species." The room went quiet. Then, without warning, the armored aliens pulled out their weapons. Bright beams of energy shot across the room. Ambassador Collins fell. First, a hole burned through his chest. "Run!" John shouted, pulling Susan down behind the table. He drew his sidearm, a simple earth pistol that seemed laughably primitive compared to the alien weapons. The security team rushed in, but they were no match for the alien technology. Bodies fell as John dragged Susan toward the exit. "This is an act of war," John shouted at Vexthal, who stood watching the slaughter with his color-shifting skin now a deep red. "No, human. This is prevention," Vexthal replied calmly. John and Susan made it to the hallway. Alarms blared throughout the building. They ran for the emergency exit, the sounds of fighting following them. Outside, chaos reigned. Alien ships filled the sky much more than had arrived initially. People ran in panic as smaller craft descended toward the city. "We need to get to the command center," John said, pulling Susan toward a military vehicle. They drove through streets filled with scared civilians. At the command center, generals and admirals gathered around screens showing alien ships entering Earth's atmosphere around the globe. "What's happening?" John demanded as he entered. General Richard Evans looked up, his face grim. "The aliens are establishing a blockade. They've disabled our satellites and shot down any aircraft that approach them. We're effectively cut off." Susan worked with the communications team trying to establish contact with the alien fleet. After an hour, a message came through. Face of an alien filled the screen, different from those they had met. This one had sharp features and gray skin. "Humans, It spoke through Susan's translator. I am Supreme Commander Vorkath of the Zorthan Imperium. Your species has been deemed too dangerous for unrestricted development. Earth is now under quarantine. Any attempt to leave your planet will be met with deadly force. On what grounds? General Evans demanded. Your kind develops weapons of mass destruction while still fighting among yourselves. You would bring chaos to the galaxy. The Galactic Council has agreed to our assessment. The screen showed Vexthal standing behind Vorkath. His skin was now a pale blue. I am sorry, humans. The Zorthan assessment is harsh but not without merit. The Council will allow your civilization to continue, but only within the confines of your own world. The transmission ended. The room fell silent until John spoke. They attacked us without provocation. They killed our diplomats, and now they cage us like animals. What can we do? Someone asked. Their technology is far beyond ours. John's eyes hardened. We do what humans have always done when backed into a corner. We fight. In the days that followed, the world's nations put aside their differences. United under the threat of alien containment, former enemies became allies. Military leaders from around the globe gathered to assess their options. The aliens think we're primitive, John told the assembled leaders a week after the attack. They think we'll accept their quarantine. They don't understand humans. Susan had been working non-stop, analyzing the alien communications they had intercepted. The Galactic Council isn't united on this. The Zorthans pushed for quarantine, but others wanted peaceful contact. We might find allies. First, we need to show them we won't be contained, John said. The world's best scientists began studying the alien technology from the few pieces they had recovered. Engineers worked day and night to adapt Earth's weapons. Soldiers trained for a type of warfare no human had ever fought before. As a small alien craft patrolled near Earth's moon, a hidden human satellite captured images of its design. Each bit of information was valuable. We're not ready yet, John told Susan as they looked at star charts in the command center one night. But we will be. Susan looked at him, her face showing both fear and determination. The aliens made a big mistake? What's that? John asked. They threatened humanity but left us alive, she said. They should have studied our history books. When humans are cornered, that's when we're most dangerous. Outside the window, the stars twinkled in the night sky. Somewhere up there, the aliens watched, thinking they had contained a primitive species. They had no idea what was coming. 6 months passed since the Zorthan attack. Earth existed under the alien blockade, cut off from the stars. But humans were far from idle. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Major Olivia Grant hunched over a workbench. Pieces of alien technology lay scattered before her. Her fingers moved carefully as she connected Earth components to the alien device. Try it now, she called to her team. A technician flipped a switch. The hybrid device hummed to life, glowing with a blue light. Olivia smiled. It worked. Major, the general wants to see you, a young soldier said from the doorway. Olivia nodded and covered her work. The underground base was a maze of tunnels and rooms, all hidden from the alien ships that occasionally flew over the mountains. She made her way to the command center where General Paul Harris waited. Major Grant, show me what you've got, the general said without looking up from his maps. Olivia placed a small device on the table. We've adapted their shield technology to our weapons systems. It's not perfect, but it's better than anything we had 6 months ago. The general nodded. Bill Taylor's team has some news you should hear. They walked to another section of the base where Bill Taylor, a former hacker now working for military intelligence, sat surrounded by screens. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. I broke into their communications, Bill said without preamble. The encryption was complex but not impossible. What did you find? Olivia asked. Bill tapped on his keyboard. Alien text appeared on the screen, with English translations below. The Zorthans aren't just keeping us in, they're planning to wipe us out. The room went silent. Bill continued. They're gathering a fleet on the far side of Mars. In 3 months, they plan to eliminate all human life on Earth. They're calling it pest control. General Harris's face hardened. Does the rest of the Galactic Council know about this? Some do, some don't, Bill replied. Politics out there isn't so different from ours. The Zorthans have convinced enough council members that humans are dangerous. They've been hiding their true plans from the more peaceful species. Olivia looked at the general. We're not ready for a full-scale war. Then we need to buy more time and gather more intelligence, the general said. And I know just who to ask. Captain Frank Rivera stood at attention in the general's office. At 35, Frank was the best pilot Earth had. He had flown everything from fighter jets to experimental spacecraft. You want me to do what? Frank asked, sure he had heard wrong. Pilot a stealth craft past the blockade, the general repeated. We need eyes beyond our solar system. The craft will be small, barely big enough for one person. But it's our best shot at learning more about what we're facing. Frank didn't hesitate. When do I leave? 2 weeks later, a tiny craft slipped away from Earth under cover of a meteor shower. The aliens didn't notice the small human ship among the natural space debris. Frank piloted through the blockade, his heart pounding as he passed within miles of massive alien warships. Once clear, he activated the experimental drive Olivia's team had developed using alien technology. The stars blurred as he accelerated, toward the coordinates where Bill had detected alien communications. On Earth, Dr. Samantha Lee worked in her lab, studying alien biology from tissue samples recovered after the attack. Her discoveries were troubling. Their nervous systems are different from ours, she explained to Commander John Miller. They process information linearly. Humans think more chaotically. What does that mean for us? John asked. It means they're predictable, Samantha said. They follow patterns strictly. If we can disrupt those patterns, they'll struggle to adapt. This information spread through Earth's military think tanks. Strategists began developing battle plans that would exploit the aliens' linear thinking. Meanwhile, Frank Rivera's mission continued. He reached a small trading outpost on the edge of the solar system, a place the Zorthans apparently used to refuel their ships. Keeping his craft hidden behind an asteroid, he listened to alien communications and observed their movements. What he saw gave him hope. The aliens were arrogant. They didn't expect resistance from Earth. Their security was lax because they believed humans couldn't possibly reach this far into space. Frank recorded everything, learning the patterns of ships coming and going. He observed that not all aliens were hostile. Some spoke against the Zorthan blockade when they thought no one was listening. After 3 weeks of observation, Frank prepared to return to Earth. He had the information they needed, but as he powered up his engines, an alarm blared. A Zorthan. Patrol had spotted him. Frank's hands flew over the controls. The small craft had speed but little in the way of weapons. 2 Zorthan ships moved to intercept him. So much for stealth, Frank muttered as he pushed his engines to full power. The chase was on. The Zorthan ships were larger and better armed, but Frank's smaller craft was more maneuverable. He weaved through the asteroid field, using the space, rocks as cover. A Zorthan energy beam grazed his ship, damaging one thruster. Warning lights flashed across his control panel. Frank gritted his teeth and made a desperate move, cutting power and letting his ship drift directly toward a large asteroid. The Zorthans followed, certain they had disabled the human craft. At the last second, Frank restored power and skimmed the surface of the asteroid, using its gravity to slingshot his craft into higher speed. The pursuing Zorthans couldn't adjust in time. One ship crashed into the asteroid. The other lost sight of Frank's craft as it disappeared into the darkness of space. Damaged but operational, Frank's ship limped back toward Earth. He had to warn them about what he had seen and heard. Back on Earth, preparations continued. Olivia Grant's team had successfully integrated alien shield technology into human weapon systems. Factory lines around the world produced new hybrid weapons day and night. Bill Taylor worked with a global team of hackers, probing the alien communications for weaknesses. They developed viruses that could potentially disrupt alien systems. In training centers across the planet, soldiers learned to fight an enemy unlike any humanity had faced before. They studied the aliens' predictable patterns and practiced exploiting them. When Frank Rivera's damaged craft was detected approaching Earth, a special team moved to recover him before the Zorthons noticed his return. His ship, barely functioning, made a controlled crash in the Australian outback. A recovery team reached him within minutes. "Did you get what we needed?" asked the team leader as they pulled Frank from the wreckage. Despite his injuries, Frank managed to smile. "That and more. The Zorthons are strong, but they're not invincible." In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Earth's military leaders gathered to hear Frank's report. The room was silent as he played recordings of alien conversations and showed images of their outpost. "The Zorthons are the main threat," Frank explained. "Many council species actually disagree with the quarantine, but they're afraid to oppose the Zorthons openly." General Harris studied the tactical displays. "So if we can defeat the Zorthons decisively, the rest of the council might back down." "It's possible," Frank said. "But we'd need to make sure the entire council sees what happens. The Zorthons control what information reaches the council about Earth." Commander John Miller, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Then we need to make a statement they can't ignore." The pieces were falling into place. Earth's first counterstrike would need to be more than just a military victory. It needed to be a message to the entire galaxy. Humans would not be contained, would not be exterminated, and were far more dangerous than the aliens had assumed. As Frank finished his report, Olivia Grant entered the room. "The weapon systems are ready for field testing. We can begin the operation whenever you give the order." General Harris looked around the room at Earth's defenders. "The Zorthons think they have 3 months before they launch their attack. Let's show them humans don't wait to be slaughtered." The plan was set. In 2 weeks, Operation Dawn would begin. Humanity's first strike against the alien blockade. The message would be clear. The quarantine was over. Earth was fighting back. The night before Operation Dawn, the atmosphere in the underground command center was tense. General Paul Harris stood before a map of the solar system, alien ships marked in red, human forces in blue. There weren't many blue markers. All units. "Report ready, sir?" said Admiral Doug Wilson, who would command Earth's space forces. General Harris nodded. "Begin the operation at 400 hours. Good luck, Admiral." Across the base, Lieutenant Amy Foster checked her gear one last time. Her Special Forces team had trained nonstop for this mission. 6 men and women, the best Earth had to offer, gathered around her. "Remember your training," Amy told them. "The aliens think in straight lines, we don't." At exactly 0400 hours, the first phase began. Bill Taylor sat at his station, fingers flying across his keyboard. With a final keystroke, he launched the cyber attack. The virus they had developed entered the alien communication network. "Virus deployed," Bill reported. "Their communications should be scrambled for about 30 minutes. Admiral Wilson gave the order. Hidden launch sites around the world opened, revealing Earth's new fleet. The ships were smaller than the alien vessels, but they carried hybrid weapons, human ingenuity combined with reverse-engineered alien technology. The fleet rose into the night sky, accelerating toward the alien blockade. At their head flew the flagship, commanded by Admiral Wilson himself. The plan was simple but dangerous. Punch through the blockade at its weakest point and draw the alien fleet into a prepared battlefield. In space, the Zorthon blockade continued its routine patrol. Without warning, their communications went dark. Confusion spread through the alien fleet as commanders tried to restore contact with each other. That's when Earth struck. The human fleet appeared on the aliens' sensors, approaching fast. The Zorthons scrambled to respond, but without clear communication, their movements were uncoordinated. The first shots were fired. Human ships launched missiles that the aliens easily shot down. The Zorthons returned fire, their energy weapons cutting through space. But the human ships were more maneuverable than expected, dodging many of the blasts. "Now," ordered Admiral Wilson. The human fleet suddenly split into 3 groups, executing a maneuver that confused the alien commanders. They had expected a head-on attack, not this 3-pronged approach. The battle expanded across the space near Earth's moon. Human ships darted between larger alien vessels, firing precision strikes at key systems. This wasn't the primitive assault the Zorthans had expected. This was coordinated, strategic warfare. On the command ship, Admiral Wilson watched the battle unfold. Phase 2, he ordered. Lieutenant Amy Foster and her team boarded a small, fast transport. Their target, a Zorthan battlecruiser that had been isolated from the main fleet. As their transport approached, the battlecruiser fired, nearly hitting them. Evasive maneuvers, Amy shouted. The pilot, a young woman named Kate, spun the ship in a complex pattern. The alien weapons couldn't track their erratic movement. They reached the battlecruiser and attached to its hull near an access point identified by intelligence. Amy and her team put on their spacesuits. Remember, we need this ship intact, she reminded them. They cut through the hull and entered the alien vessel. Immediately, they encountered resistance. Zorthan soldiers fired at them with energy weapons. Amy's team responded with their new hybrid weapons, which could penetrate the aliens' personal shields. The fight through the corridors was intense but brief. The Zorthans fought bravely but predictably. Amy's team used unconventional tactics, splitting up and attacking from multiple angles. The aliens couldn't adapt quickly enough. Bridge secured, Amy reported into her comm as her team took control of the ship's command center. The alien crew, those who survived, were taken prisoner. Outside, the space battle continued. The human fleet had suffered losses, but they had inflicted significant damage on the blockade. More importantly, they had achieved their main objective, confusion. The Zorthan fleet had broken formation, trying to respond to attacks coming from multiple directions. All ships execute Phase 3, Admiral Wilson commanded. The human fleet began a strategic retreat, drawing the pursuing Zorthan ships into a pre-planned kill zone. Hidden behind Earth's moon were Earth's most powerful weapons platforms, constructed in secret during the months of quarantine. As the alien ships followed the retreating humans, these platforms revealed themselves. They fired advanced missiles that split into multiple warheads, each targeting a different alien ship. The space between the moon and Earth lit up with explosions. On the captured Zorthan battlecruiser, Amy's team worked quickly. A tech specialist, named Ryan, accessed the ship's communication system. "I'm in," Ryan said. "We can broadcast to the entire Galactic Council network from here." Amy nodded. "Do it." Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, the regular Council broadcasts were suddenly interrupted. Screens showed the battle near Earth. The Council members watched in shock as the supposedly primitive humans fought with unexpected skill against the mighty Zorthan fleet. The broadcast continued, showing the human victory unfolding. It showed Amy's team capturing a Zorthan battlecruiser. It showed human ships executing complex maneuvers that the Zorthans couldn't counter, and it showed the Zorthan retreat as their blockade fell apart. In the council chambers, High Counselor Vexthal watched in disbelief. His skin shifted through shades of blue and gray, reflecting his confusion and fear. "How is this possible?" he asked no one in particular. "They were contained. They were primitive." Another council member, Thax, stepped forward. "You believed the Zorthan lies. We all did. But look at what these humans can do." Back in Earth orbit, Admiral Wilson gave the final order of the day. All ships returned to base. Mission accomplished. The human fleet regrouped and headed back to Earth. They had lost 17 ships and hundreds of brave men and women, but they had broken the blockade. They had captured alien technology intact, and most importantly, they had shown the galaxy what humans could do. The captured battlecruiser, now under Lieutenant Amy Foster's command, descended toward Earth. It would be studied, its technology adapted for human use. The alien prisoners would be treated according to Earth's laws of war, humanely, despite what the Zorthans had planned for humanity. In the underground command center, General Harris received the reports with grim satisfaction. "Casualties?" he asked. "Lower than expected, sir," an officer replied. "The alien predictability worked in our favor. They couldn't adapt to our tactics." The general nodded. "And the broadcast?" "Confirmed, delivered to all major council worlds. They all saw what happened here today. On screens around the world, humans celebrated their first victory. But military leaders knew this was just the beginning. The Zorthans would return with a larger force. Earth needed to prepare. Dr. Samantha Lee's team began studying the captured aliens, learning more about their biology. Their reaction time is actually slower than ours, she reported. They're stronger, but we're faster. Bill Taylor's cyber warfare team analyzed data stolen from the alien ships. Their computer systems are advanced but rigid, Bill explained. They don't handle unexpected inputs well. We can use that. Major Olivia Grant inspected the captured battlecruiser alongside Lieutenant Amy Foster. The technology is impressive, Olivia said, but not magical. We can understand it, adapt it, improve it. Amy nodded. They underestimated us, all of us. She looked at the alien prisoners being led to a secure facility. They thought we would surrender or die. They never considered we might win. In space, the remains of the Zorthan blockade retreated to regroup. Their commander, furious at the defeat, sent an emergency message to Zorthan High Command. The humans were not the easy target they had believed. They would need a larger force to deal with this unexpected resistance. What the Zorthan commander didn't know was that his message was intercepted by human intelligence. Bill Taylor read it and smiled grimly. They're coming back, he told General Harris, with everything they have. The general wasn't surprised. Good, that's what we want. Sir? Bill asked, confused. We needed the whole galaxy to see this battle, the general explained. But what comes next will be even more important. The Zorthans will throw everything at us, and the entire Galactic Council will be watching to see what happens. Commander John Miller joined them, having overseen the battle from Earth. The Zorthans think they just faced the best we have, he said. They have no idea what's coming. The three men looked at a new map of the solar system. Human forces were now marked in greater numbers, with new weapons and strategies noted. Earth had shown a fraction of its capability. The real human army was still preparing. As night fell over the command center, the leaders of Earth's defense forces gathered to plan their next move. The Zorthans would return, likely within weeks. But when they did, they would face what they had feared all along, the full might of a human army united against a common threat, and the galaxy would watch, in awe. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 27 species argued loudly, their voices translated through devices that turned their varied sounds into something each could understand. High Counselor Vex Thule stood at the center, his color-shifting skin now a steady purple of distress. The images from Earth played on a large screen behind him. Human ships defeating the Zorthan blockade, capturing a battlecruiser, broadcasting their victory to the galaxy. This changes nothing, insisted Grand Marshal Zurak, the military leader of the Council forces. The humans are still dangerous. One victory does not make them ready for galactic society. Counselor Thax, whose species resembled tall, thin humans with golden skin, stepped forward. Yet this primitive species defeated a Zorthan fleet. Perhaps we were wrong about them. The debate might have continued for hours, as council meetings often did, but an unexpected alarm sounded. The chamber doors opened and guards rushed in, looking confused. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Zurak. A small figure walked into the chamber, surrounded by the confused guards. It was a human woman in a simple gray suit. She walked, with confidence, unafraid of the alien beings towering around her. I am Dr. Maria Reyes, representative of Earth, she announced. Her words were translated through a device at her throat, human technology adapted to alien languages. The chamber erupted in chaos. Fextel moved toward the human. How did you get here? How did you pass our security? Maria smiled slightly. The same way we defeated your blockade, by being underestimated. She carried a small device which she placed on the floor. It projected images into the air, internal Zorthan communications, battle plans, orders, all clearly showing something the Council had not been told. The Zorthans never intended to merely quarantine Earth, Maria explained as the evidence played for all to see. They planned our extinction. What you witnessed was not aggression from humanity. It was self-defense. The room fell silent as the evidence continued. Recordings showed Zorthan commanders discussing the human problem and how eliminating humanity would prevent competition for Zorthan expansion. We are not the first, Maria continued. The Zorthans have eliminated 3 other emerging species in the last century, species that might have one day challenged their power. Grand Marshal Zurak, himself a Zorthan, stepped forward with rage. This is treasonous. Remove this human immediately. But the other council members didn't move. They were watching the evidence with growing horror. The Zorthan plans were clear, and they implicated several council members who had been bribed or threatened into supporting the quarantine. Earth does not seek war with the Galactic Council, Maria said firmly. We seek justice, recognition, and the right to determine our own future among the stars. Vexthal's skin had turned a pale blue of shame. How did you obtain these communications? We have been monitoring your network since the day you attacked our diplomatic mission, Maria explained. While you watched us from above, convinced of our primitive nature, we were learning everything about you. The council chamber buzzed again, but now with a different energy. Fear mixed with respect. This human had traveled across space, infiltrated their most secure facility, and revealed a conspiracy that reached to the highest levels of their government. While the council deliberated, events moved quickly on Earth. Colonel Steve Martinez stood on a hill overlooking a vast plain where thousands of soldiers trained with new weapons. These were not regular military units, but specialized forces designed to combat alien technology. The next attack will be soon, Steve told his officers. The Zorthans won't wait after their humiliation. Intelligence reports confirmed his assessment. The Zorthan fleet was gathering, much larger than before. Hundreds of ships were moving toward Earth, expected to arrive within days. Are we ready? Asked a young captain. Steve looked out at the training grounds where soldiers practiced with energy shields and adapted weapons. As ready as we can be. In orbit around Earth, a new defense system had been established. The captured Zorthan battlecruiser, now renamed Defiance, served as the command center. Lieutenant Amy Foster had been promoted to captain and given command of the ship. All defense platforms report ready. Her second-in-command reported as they prepared for the coming battle. Amy nodded. She had studied the Zorthan battle tactics extensively. They'll come in force this time. No more containment. They'll try to overwhelm us quickly. Back in the council chamber, the debate had turned against the Zorthans. Grand Marshal Zurak found himself isolated as more evidence of Zorthan aggression came to light. The humans should be heard, Councillor Thax insisted. If they can reach us here, if they can defeat a blockade with inferior technology, imagine what they could contribute as allies rather than enemies. Maria Reyes stood firm before the council. She had not come to beg for mercy, but to establish humanity's place in the galaxy. We offer friendship to those who desire it. We offer peace to those who respect our sovereignty, and we offer a warning to those who would threaten our existence. As she spoke, alerts flashed across the chamber. The Zorthan attack fleet had launched ahead of schedule, rushing toward Earth with overwhelming force. Now you will see, sneered Zurak. Your primitive world will burn. Maria didn't flinch. Instead, she activated another device. A live feed from Earth's defense system appeared. The Zorthan fleet would arrive at Earth within hours, but humanity was ready. Across Earth, civilians moved into underground shelters built during the months of preparation. Military forces took their positions. In orbit, Captain Amy Foster and the crew of the Defiance prepared to meet the Zorthan fleet. All ships battle stations, Admiral Wilson commanded from Earth's defense headquarters. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. The Zorthan fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Over 300 ships, a force meant to crush any resistance quickly. In the council chamber, many watched with dread. They had seen humanity's first victory, but this Zorthan force was overwhelming. No emerging species could hope to stand against such power. Maria Reyes remained calm. Watch, she told the council. Watch and learn what humans do when threatened. As the The Zorthan fleet approached. Earth's defenses remained hidden. The aliens detected only minimal resistance, a few orbiting platforms and ships that seemed to be retreating. "They run already," Zurak laughed, watching from the council chamber. "As all primitive species do when faced with superior force." Maria said nothing. She knew what was coming. The Zorthan fleet moved into position around Earth, preparing their weapons for a devastating first strike that would end human resistance once and for all. Their commander transmitted a message to Earth. "Surrender now, and some of your people may be spared." The response came not in words but in action. From hiding places around the solar system, behind the moon, in asteroid fields, even from beneath the oceans on Earth, humanity's true defenses emerged. The council members watched in shock as hundreds of human ships appeared, surrounding the Zorthan fleet. These weren't the hastily adapted vessels from the first battle. These were purpose-built warships designed specifically to counter Zorthan technology. "Impossible," whispered Vexthul. "They couldn't have built such a fleet in so little time." "You forget," Maria replied calmly. "Humans have been at war with each other for most of our history. When united against a common enemy, our capacity for warfare is unmatched." On the Defiance, Captain Amy Foster gave the order to engage. The battle began not with a frontal assault, as the Zorthans expected, but with targeted strikes at communication nodes. Bill Taylor's cyber warfare team launched a more sophisticated attack than before, disrupting the Zorthan command structure. "They're learning," Zurak realized with growing horror. "They're adapting to our tactics." The human fleet moved in complex patterns that confused the Zorthan targeting systems. Earth's weapons were devastating, not 3 days after the battle, a vast Zorthan armada appeared at the edge of the solar system. This wasn't a mere invasion force. It was the full might of the Zorthan military, hundreds of battleships and thousands of smaller craft. At their center was a massive vessel unlike any seen before, a planet killer capable of destroying Earth with a single blast. "They're not here to quarantine us anymore," Vice Admiral Karen Peterson said grimly as she watched the sensor readings. She had taken command of Earth's orbital defenses after Admiral Wilson was injured in the previous battle. "They're here for revenge." The previous victories had given humanity confidence, but this force was different. Intelligence suggested the Zorthans had pulled ships from across their empire for this attack. They intended to make an example of Earth, to show the galaxy what happened to those who defied them. Message from the Galactic Council, a communications officer reported. The face of High Counselor Vexthul appeared on screen. "Vice Admiral Peterson, the Council has ordered the Zorthans to stand down. They have refused. We cannot officially intervene in this conflict, but several Council species have sent observers to document what occurs. The galaxy is watching." Karen nodded. "Thank you, Counselor. Earth will remember who stood with us." The communication ended. Karen turned to her staff. "They're watching to see if our previous victories were flukes or if humans truly belong among them." "Orders, Admiral?" asked her second-in-command. Karen surveyed the tactical display. Earth's forces were outnumbered at least 5-1. The Zorthan planet killer could end the fight before it began if it got within range. But humanity had prepared for this moment. "Execute Operation Thunderbolt," Karen ordered. Across Earth's orbit, defense platforms activated. On the surface, missile silos opened. The human fleet moved into formation, led by Captain Amy Foster on the Defiance. But these visible defenses were just the beginning. The Zorthan Supreme Commander Vorkath stood on his flagship's bridge. His gray face showed no emotion as he prepared to eradicate the troublesome humans. The defeat of his blockade and invasion force had been an embarrassment. This would be redemption. "We are in position," his second-in-command reported. "The planet killer requires 30 minutes to charge." Vorkath nodded. "Begin the sequence. Nothing must interfere with the weapon's deployment." The massive planet killer began to glow as it drew energy from the surrounding ships. The Zorthan fleet formed a protective barrier around it, expecting the humans to throw everything at stopping the weapon. But the human fleet didn't move. "Why don't they attack?" Vorkath wondered aloud. "Their sensors must detect our weapon charging." His question was answered moments later when space itself seemed to ripple around his fleet. hidden gravitational mines, placed throughout the solar system in the months since first contact, activated simultaneously. The Zorthan formation buckled as ships were pulled in unexpected directions. Before they could recover, a new threat emerged. From Earth's moon, hundreds of small craft launched, but these weren't conventional ships, they were drones, each guided by a human pilot from a secure bunker on Earth. Drone swarm detected, a Zorthan officer shouted. Thousands of them. The human drones moved with unprecedented agility, darting between Zorthan ships, targeting engines and weapon systems with precision strikes. No alien fleet had ever faced such tactics. Their weapons were designed to target large vessels, not these tiny, erratic fighters. Lieutenant Jack Murphy led the drone pilots from his command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. His hands moved across the neural interface, guiding his drone through maneuvers that would be impossible for a pilot to physically withstand. Sierra Squadron, focus on their communication arrays, Jack ordered. Tango Squadron, target their engines. The drones operated as a coordinated swarm, yet each moved with individual purpose. The Zorthans couldn't predict their movements or establish effective countermeasures. For every drone destroyed, the humans adapted their tactics. On the Gior Defiance, Captain Amy Foster watched the drone attack create chaos in the Zorthan fleet. Now, she ordered, all ships, execute attack pattern Delta. The human fleet surged forward, but not toward the main Zorthan force. Instead, they targeted the supply ships at the rear of the formation. These vessels carried the ammunition and fuel the Zorthan battleships would need for a prolonged engagement. They ignore our main force? Vorkath was confused by the human strategy. Redirect our rear guard to protect the supply lines. This was exactly what Earth's forces had anticipated. As Zorthan ships moved to defend their rear, they created gaps in their formation. Vice Admiral Peterson, watching from her command ship, gave the next order. Launch the spears. From hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, Earth's newest weapons activated. The quantum spears were massive railguns built into asteroids, capable of launching projectiles at near light speeds. These weren't complex energy weapons, but simple kinetic projectiles. Technology the humans had perfected for centuries. The first spear struck a Zorthan battleship, punching through its shields and hull before continuing through two more vessels behind it. The second spear hit another section of the fleet. Within minutes, 20 Zorthan ships had been disabled or destroyed, creating more chaos in their formation. Supreme Commander Vorkath struggled to coordinate his forces. The human attacks came from too many directions at once. His carefully planned formation was breaking apart. The planet killer must be protected, he shouted. Move all available ships to defensive positions. But as his fleet consolidated around the planet killer, the humans unveiled their final surprise. Major Olivia Grant had spent months developing it, a weapon that could turn the Zorthon's greatest strength into a weakness. From the Defiance, Captain Amy Foster gave the command. Deploy the disruption wave. A pulse of energy spread from the human flagship, invisible to normal sensors but devastating to the specific frequency the Zorthon ships used for internal communications. As the wave passed through the alien fleet, ship after ship lost coordination between its systems. In the command center, Bill Taylor watched his monitors with satisfaction. The virus is in their network, he reported. Their ships are fighting themselves. Across the Zorthan fleet, weapons powered down unexpectedly. Engines shut off. Life support systems faltered. The mighty armada that had threatened Earth now drifted in disarray, all except the planet killer, which had separate systems specifically designed to resist such attacks. It continued charging, now at 70% capacity. All forces converge on the planet killer, Vice Admiral Peterson ordered. We have one chance to stop it. The human fleet, along with the drone swarms, turned their attention to the massive weapon, but its defenses were formidable. Energy shields deflected attacks. Point defense systems destroyed drones that got too close. Supreme Commander Vorkath stood on his crippled flagship, watching the humans concentrate on the planet killer. Despite the chaos around him, he smiled. They cannot stop it. Earth will burn. On the Defiance, Captain Amy Foster and her crew fought to break through the planet killer's defenses. "We need a new approach," she told her tactical officer. "Find me a weakness." The officer studied the sensor readings. "The energy collection nodes. They're vulnerable during the charging cycle." Amy nodded. "All ships target the collection nodes. Concentrate fire." The human fleet adjusted their attack, focusing on specific points on the planet killer's surface. But time was running out. The weapon was now at 90% charge. In the midst of the battle, Lieutenant Jack Murphy had an idea. "The Zorthans think linearly," he told his drone pilots. "They expect frontal attacks. Let's do something they won't predict." His drone squadron changed tactics. Instead of attacking the planet killer directly, they targeted the space behind it, seeming to miss completely. The Zorthans ignored them, focusing on the more direct threats. But the drones weren't missing. They were executing a complex maneuver, building momentum as they looped around in space, approaching from the planet killer's blind spot. Each drone carried a small but powerful explosive charge. "All pilots prepare for final approach," Jack ordered. "This will be a one-way trip." The drones accelerated to maximum speed, aiming for the collection nodes identified by the Defiance. The Zorthan defenses detected them too late. Dozens of drones slammed into the critical points, their explosive charges detonating in sequence. The planet killer shuddered as its energy collection system failed. The massive power it had been gathering had nowhere to go. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as overload warnings flashed. Supreme Commander Vorkath received the dire news on his flagship. "Evacuate the planet killer," he ordered. "All ships withdraw." But it was too late. The planet killer's power core destabilized, creating a chain reaction. The massive vessel exploded in a blinding flash, the shockwave damaging nearby ships from both fleets. As the light faded, the remnants of the Zorthan fleet began to retreat. Their supreme weapon was destroyed. Their ships were disabled or crippled. The supposedly primitive humans had defeated the mightiest force in the Zorthan Empire. Vice Admiral Peterson watched them flee. "Should we pursue?" asked her tactical officer. She shook her head. "No. They've learned their lesson, and we've made our point."